Cult Lords fans, for another episode review of The Last of Us. And we are whittling down this population on the earth every episode.
But joining the fauna.
Yes. So, thanks for joining the Cult Lords. If you are not a member of our viewership, our cult, we would ask that you would go down, hit subscribe, hit like, and then in the comments tell us what you thought about this episode. We're about to talk about
what are you waiting for
in a moment. We're going to go through our thoughts and what happened.
And
spoilers, yes. So if you've not been with us before, subscribe and comment. So Dane, on the note of spoilers, there's two types of spoilers.
Ooh.
Or two types of informational things we want to give. Number one, once again, we say it every week, neither one of us played the video game. So we don't have that knowledge to draw upon, to compare this to, right? Everything we see up on the screen on Sunday night, watching it for the first time is
brand spanking
new to us, okay? And then, as you said, Dane, we are about to go into spoilers. So if you haven't watched this episode yet, maybe you want to hit the pause button, go watch the episode, then come back, watch this spoiler review of The Last of Us. And this one was called Long Time. Long Time. So, Dane, before we start this, there's a special drink that we're going to have for this episode review. And what is it?
Well, everyone who's a Scotch drinker knows about Lagavulin. This is the Nick Offerman special. They knew he was a big Scotch fan, and so they went out and asked him, what would you love us to do to customize a special tasting Scotch just for you? He even put his picture on the box.
I see that.
I mean, how many people do you know gets their picture put on a Scotch special edition box? But this is a charred oak cask, aged 11 years. I don't know what the alcohol in it is, but I mean...
so they approached Nick Offerman 11 years ago?
Yep.
Or like just in the last year?
I can't read what it says. He says, I have traveled the world and sampled many attempts at God, is it small? Pleasing nectar.
Okay.
All right. And my heart is into the bargain.
I'm dying.
We didn't even know he was a poet. Well, we knew after this episode he became a poet, right?
Yeah.
All right, box. Nice box, though.
Okay.
Bottle's nice. Always.
Very nice.
Very
box.
formal.
Once again, there's pictures on it.
Pictures on it. Glass, please. Doink, 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 doink. Woo! Smells scotchy. I like to try them first. Prost. Woo. That's tasty. It's got definitely some charness to it. There's a little caramelization that's in there.
Yep. That's a pretty hard char.
It's good. There's a little bit of, you get a lot of pepper in there. 46% alcohol.
Nice.
So, hey, thanks, Nick. In honor of you for this particular episode, we're cracked open your bottle.
All right.
Let's go.
So let's talk about this episode, Dan.
Yeah.
Now, in the very first two episodes, each episode opened up with some sort of thing from the past that really hadn't been part of the video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
First episode was the TV show interview. The second one was the Indonesian disease control lady, right? This one didn't really open up like that, but we did get a flashback a little bit later into the episode. But what we learned was that we learned about Nick Offerman's character, right? And we knew that this is where Joel and Tess were going. Well, we didn't quite know that this was where they were going.
Right.
We learned about that later on in the flashback. But Nick Offerman, it shows, living in a small town I think it's in supposedly
10 miles west of Boston.
I was going to say
was
upstate Boston.
Looked like a pretty nice small town there, 10 miles west of Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, because remember they were traveling through the forest and the wood. I'm like, really, this Rocky Mountain area? I mean, it looked like you were in Colorado in the beginning part. So I'm assuming they wouldn't lie about that. Those people are very lucky, whoever lives in that town.
All right.
But
so
they
get
there.
They're in the middle of evacuating that town, and you see Nick Offerman sitting in the basement, looking out of his cameras, right, as they're gathering people up on a truck, and they're knocking on his door.
Where are they? And
they walk around. They walk around. He hears them walking.
It's like those jackbooted thugs.
Yeah.
Let me take them out.
Yeah. So they leave.
Definitely a touch of paranoia in that particular scene because he
runs
out. He's like, what? Where are they?
Well, but see, they were forcing evacuation. So if you were a person who didn't want to evacuate and you just wanted to stay in your house, they were telling you can't do that.
Right. Well, and there was a lead up to that because remember when he was walking with Ellie, he shows her a field where all these people.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That was because that led into that.
That led into
it was a very clever way to lead into that scene because you went. Here's all the dead people that the government had killed.
Right.
Because it would spread if they didn't contain it. And then you all of a sudden see all the people.
Yeah, and you see that those people weren't necessarily testing positive. If they if they didn't have room at a
safety
DZ,
site,
gotta get rid of them.
Gotta get rid of them. So
because you know what he says, it's better than dead people don't get infected. Right, and turn into your enemy later on.
Right. Yeah. That is definitely true. And so he goes out there and he was obviously resisting. He's not going with them. That was, by the way, that whole part with the government loading up. It was totally reminded me of Black Summer. I mean, I don't know if they meant that or maybe that's it looked just like the beginning of Black Summer.
But you know what? I think about every zombie series or flick you've seen. There's always this. So like World War Z had that, right? Remember they were gathering and taking people to certain strongholds in World War Z? Remember Brad Pitt when he got back, he ends at one of those strongholds.
Yeah.
And then, Walking Dead had that too, in the beginning where there was gathering up people, trying to get them to certain zones.
Well, I thought it woke up where all that was late already,
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't...
Oh, did they flashback?
Yeah,
or?
well, no, he didn't see it, but he saw the remnants of it. He would go he would see all the military vehicles
I just felt like the way they did it was very similar to the way Black Summer, where they had everyone in the street in the middle of a suburb, and they're checking their ID, checking them, and some people. But I think the big difference in Black Summer, people were freaking out.
Right.
I mean, everyone's like, "We got to get on that truck. I need to get on there." And this one, they're like, "Oh, we're just going to be taken to a safety site."
Yeah.
They were very laid back about it. The mom's there with their baby. You know. But then the funny thing I thought is that which really led to him being a little bit cuckoo is that when he gets his gun out and he goes and he runs out and they're all gone already. What was he going to do? Fight off 15 soldiers and all those people?
He was just making sure the town was clear.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't ready to fight. He's just like...
Because he was...
Yeah, I know. He's making sure the town was clear. Like, is there anybody else
And then he's like, yes!
Yeah. So then he's,
Every survivalist... what's the word? Ecstasy is that he can go out. Fantasy is that everything's available.
All right.
Every store is stocked.
Yeah.
What did he say? Wow, they turned off the gas fast, and he goes in and he gets it turned back on again. And it's like, okay, well, he was prepared.
Yeah. So he went in. He does that. He goes into the Home Depot. Takes his boat as a trailer and just loads it up.
Neighbor's boat. I don't think it was his.
Oh, really?
Somebody across the street, yeah.
Dude, if you had that, you'd just go door to door just seeing what do the neighbors have.
And this is the big stark difference, too, with Walking Dead and the other one, is that he was just carte blanche. I mean, there's no zombies. He's completely nobody around. I mean, he didn't have to worry about anything. In the Walking Dead, there would be zombies already there.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So
he was able to build a fence around something like 3 or 4 square blocks of the city.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just have carte blanche of 4 blocks of the city.
He definitely had some mad skills with everything. I mean, electronics, programming,
he'd been
wireless. I can't think of that thing with the flame
welding.
Yeah.
Whatever, first of all, we don't know what his profession was, but I would say it was probably something blue collar. And then He probably learned all these skills preparing for this day, but he prepared by himself. You know what I mean? Which is interesting. So he didn't have any partners.
He did talk about his mom a little bit, but obviously I'm assuming he was not building that underground bunker when his mom was there.
Oh, I don't know.
He was kind of...
But suddenly one day, an alert goes out, and he thinks it's a walker. He thinks it's... And in one of his trenches is a guy there named Frank, right? He was Bill, right?
Yeah, he was Bill. The other guy was Frank.
Right, Bill and Frank.
Yeah.
So now you're kind of, Frank is on his way. The Baltimore DZ has collapsed, and he's trying to get to the Boston one. And, wow, things went pretty fast with this. So he brings him up, doesn't trust him, but, says, like, I'm not going to give you a meal, but ends up, all right.
The guy definitely could sweet talk everything going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, and then eventually he even, after he's fed him, bathed him, let him do all this stuff, and then they start playing piano.
Yeah.
I thought for sure when he sat there...
Those were the days!
Because when he started playing the piano, Bill played the piano.
Oh, Bill, okay. Yeah.
Bill played the piano. I'm like, oh, this is totally a setup. Frank's going to completely, knock him out. Cause did you notice that Frank Olsen moved out of the back of the camera?
And
I wonder if they manipulated the audience.
I would have never trusted the guy to put my back to him like that. Well, it would have taken weeks before I trusted that guy.
Right.
But anyways, they're playing a Linda Ronstadt song.
Right.
And, they both start tearing.
Yeah.
Tearing up.
And then they come to the realization.
He goes, oh, was that for your girlfriend? And then he goes, oh, there was no girlfriend.
Right, I'm like, so cut and dry.
Bill, go take a shower. Then I fast forwarded for like 20 minutes.
Oh, you didn't watch that 20 minutes?
I'm just kidding.
I mean, so the funny thing is that I was like, wow, they're really going out there. I mean, I can't believe that this episode has completely deviated from the main storyline and gone into this obviously touching and, loving relationship between these two guys. But what threw me was that you completely didn't see it coming. But in the video game, I did a thing on here, Frank had a partner named Bill. But they didn't explore any of this. They just called him a partner, right?
Well, or
Bill had a partner named Frank.
Yeah, and in the video game, there was no relationship between the two. And when Joel gets there with a girl, they go out looking for all kinds of stuff together and encounter tons of zombies, and there's lots of action. So, but none of that was in this episode. Yeah. It was completely departure.
Very quiet.
So
episode.
I actually saw a couple of reviews already from people who play the game.
Yeah.
And one guy's title was "Not My Bill," and then and they were both upset that they went down this route because they're like, this had really nothing to do with what's going to happen in the future. You just had this. By the way, this episode was 76 minutes. You had 76 minutes of watching this relationship build, peak, and end. And it has nothing to do with the main story and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So and I agree with you. I mean, it is a side, route.
Yeah.
But what it really was out there for was you got a really good understanding of how time had changed for just general people, living like this and how things would go and what they'd have to do to survive. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it was kind of like, this is not really the main story.
Yeah.
I mean, because then he dies in the end. I mean, if there was payoff where Bill keeps going, that would have been a whole nother thing. But he committed suicide. And in the game, I don't think he did that either.
And you know what? In 2003, when the zombies hit, how old do you think Bill was?
Probably 33, 34, somewhere in there.
I would have said 40. Okay.
Well, that's
so now it's 2023.
Because Offerman is 40, and they were like, let's not give him too much makeup.
So now it's 2023. So 23 years went by, and they made it look like these guys were 80. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm so old and decrepit and stuff. If they're eating pretty lean and they're, they're exercising and stuff. Mm-hmm. Now they didn't really say, but it looks like Frank might have had like what's like Lou Gehrig's disease or something.
Something like that.
You know
something
what I mean?
degenerating because his nerves were going. Yeah, he couldn't paint anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, they just kind of like made it look like they aged really fast.
Right.
But, I mean, the other side of it is, I don't know, maybe they're looked at it like this is a human under high stress for 20 years because they had to fight people off all the time. Well, they made one example. Well, they only showed one example. They showed the one example. Although I will say, I'm sorry, he was a poor survivalist. If he stands in the street with a gun, no cover whatsoever, shooting him. Like, what? Why did you break the window open at least?
He should have been on his rooftop, like ducking and just picking these people off.
I mean, that was definitely a writer's contrivance. Like, well, we need him to get shot somehow, and if he's up on the roof, it's not going to happen, and we only have 3 minutes to do this scene. Well, put him in the middle of the street, shooting at him.
I also saw in some of the gamers' reviews is Bill and Joel had a more rough relationship of distrust.
Really?
Yeah. Than they did. They
mentioned it at the beginning.
Well, they showed him, where he had the gun, and then when he writes the note after he dies, he goes, "I really don't like you, but take care of Tess." And we're kind of nice, you know what I mean? And like throughout the thing, Bill and Joel don't like each other and they don't trust each other, but they know they need each other for things.
So in the game, and maybe you found this out because we don't know.
Right.
Maybe you know this. I don't know. Was there a long-term relationship between? I guess it was because they were doing the '80s song for a while, and so it must have been. We assume.
No, they were like partners on certain things, right? And Joel, I think, made his way to Bill's house.
They traded
a few times.
A lot. Yeah, right.
So, just like he said, he goes, "Your gates will be overrun by intruders."
Mm-hmm.
And then, and like when they left, the gates didn't look near as secure as when the intruders came. Now it looked way more secure because I think that probably he did come back and trade, and like Nick buffed it up.
Got the aluminum
based on his
his recommendations.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why he was all like, ha ha ha. He goes,
well, I gotta say, Joel was a clever guy because he was like, you know what? If you're gonna give me a hard time about my gun in my face and acting like I don't know what I'm doing, and then he threw it at him like, your fence is gonna fall down in like 2 years. This is gonna rust out. You're gonna and so I think that actually impressed Bill because he kind of like, he knows what he's talking about.
Okay, yeah. And then you probably off camera you don't see it, but he's like, so how many spools of wire can you bring me, and what can you here?
Right.
Let me make that list. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I just thought from a certain standpoint, and this is their homage to the game, they needed to set up the weapon cache for Joel. Mm-hmm. And this is the way they did it, but then they decided to shoehorn the whole relationship.
He didn't take any weapons.
Well, I agree.
He didn't take any of his weapons.
Waiting.
Really?
I agree. They skipped a scene. Like, maybe there was a scene where, okay, let me get the AK, and let me get this, and let me get that. Because that did seem... But in the game, did he not take any?
I don't know, but, I saw some other people pointing out he did not take any of Bill and Frank's weapons, so... Yeah.
I don't know.
Of course,
he did tell her not to touch anything.
She did. She took a gun.
She found that in the shell.
Yeah.
But I mean, he might have done something. We don't know. And
the next episode, some more
maybe
info.
He's pulling out what does Scarface say?
Oh yeah.
I love this little baby or whatever.
No. Say hello to my little friend.
Yes, maybe he'll pull it out later.
He did take. I think he probably took some ammo for what he currently has,
right.
Which is just a pistol. But, I don't know.
But I agree to your point. Joel does seem to be a little on the low end of the preparation scale.
I don't know.
Why wouldn't you
He could be doing a lot more.
Why wouldn't you take, a crap load of ammo, weapons, all
like when
2 batteries?
Like when they were in his little secret hideout, and he said, I'm going to leave this AR here because we're low on ammunition, and it's just heavy to carry.
Oh,
remember he
said
set
that up? Okay.
Well,
I missed that part.
So you are low on ammo. I don't care if you got 1 bullet. I'd still take that AR because, number 1, could find some more ammo. Number 2, just the look of it is menacing if you come up on somebody and you put it to their face.
Yeah.
Say, you make a move, I'm going to shoot you. Even with no ammo, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, I'm not moving here.
However, that could be an homage to the game, because in the game, you might only be able to carry a certain amount of weight.
Yeah.
Because, those gamers, they always put restrictions on the players.
And I brought up Heavy Spoilers last week, which is a YouTube channel that goes through all the Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. So there are signs on the walls that have these numbers. And in the game, when you find one of these signs and you hit one of these numbers, you can get upgrades, right?
Oh,
so they put these things in homage to the game in there.
So maybe, yeah. Okay.
So,
we'll see.
So we see the life and times of Frank and Bill, and, in the end they die. And, I wonder how many days it was before Joel got there after they died.
That was one thing they didn't tell you, but you could see fungus growing on the food on the table.
Well, so it did look a little gamey and old and flies around it, but it didn't look like it was super old.
Right.
Like it could have been like a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what I thought would have been interesting?
And
what if Joel and Ellie showed up before they both died, and Joel explained who Ellie was and what was going on?
Yeah, that would have been
I wonder if
that would have been interesting.
If they would have said, well, we got to help you out, or we want to go with you, or something like that.
Well, Frank was dead.
Frank,
but I mean, Bill might have been like, okay, I need to go with you then.
Right.
That would have been actually very interesting. He would have become the Daryl character.
Yeah.
Who kept going even though he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
But I bet if Offerman was willing to do every single episode for the next 4 weeks or whatever, then they would have done that.
Would have been interesting.
That would have been a great deviation from the game.
Yeah, so I was wondering.
That's a great point. I mean, that would have been very interesting character.
Like, what if they had shown up before they had died?
Yeah.
So.
And Ellie would have been like, her mind would have been blown. Like, I've never been in a car. That was, and getting to that point when she's like, I don't know what a seatbelt is. I don't know what this is. This is really cool.
Yeah.
But yet she knows where to put the cassette tape.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
How does she know what a cassette tape is?
Well, she did notice that when they walked into that radio, I think it had a cassette tape. I don't know.
So maybe she played, you mean the radio in the old place or in the new place?
Yeah. Oh. But... she's like, I've never seen a piano.
Right.
Bill could have played the piano for her, and,
They're doing a really good job with her in the sense that they're explaining, how the times have been for kids.
Right.
I mean, because it's very subtle with all her, I don't know this, I know that, I've done this, I've studied that, or, that kind of stuff. But, so you get a really strong sense of, okay, there must have been a small in-house school that said Detroit's in Michigan, right. but no one ever said what a seatbelt is or how to use. But yet somehow she knows how to use a gun because she really wants to have a gun.
Well, I don't know if she knows how to use a gun.
Well, she knows what it is enough.
She knows what it is. Yeah.
She knows to do this, but she might not know how to click the safety off, which I'm sure is going to be the scene.
Yeah. Can she reload a magazine blindfolded in the dark? No, I'm just kidding.
What was that gun, by the way? Was that an Army issue Colt? It wasn't
like
a revolver.
Looked like a Glock.
It was because it looked like a World War II.
No,
unit.
No, that was definitely a modern day semi-automatic.
Oh, okay.
So, but it looked like I don't know if
ancient.
you watched
Older
this.
to me.
It didn't look like it had its magazine in it, but so I don't know.
Oh,
when you look at the video. Go back and look. It doesn't look like the magazine's in it. It looks like the magazine's out. But
well, no. But that might have been a great catch on your part because I didn't look to that. I mean, I don't even look at that. But maybe that was a big thing. Is that the audience who would recognize that she picks it up thinking it's loaded and it has nothing in it.
Right. Yeah. You always got to treat a gun as if it's loaded. But and I didn't rewind to look back. But on first glance, I was like. There's no magazine in there, so no ammunition, no bullets. So.
And speaking about the house and her wandering around, because this is the scene where they're checking things out in the house. They both get showers. Where were Frank and Bill? Were they just?
They were locked in the bedroom, and it said in the letter says, "Do not enter the bedroom. That's where we're at." And we've locked ourselves. So when you see them driving away, and he says we left the window open so the house wouldn't stink. And so when they drive away, the window's open, and they kind of, and I was like wondering if they were going to show them laying on the bed, but they didn't. Yeah.
I was doing something else at the time, so I missed that particular point.
So they get in their crappy F-10, which, that's what Joel called it, a crappy F-10. And they drive off and, leave the community. And that kind of ends this episode. So, question to you, did you like this episode?
I mean, the problem with it, I think, is that it didn't meet your expectations and what was going to happen next. Because you got a sense that Offerman was going to be obviously in the episode, and then he was going to be a survivalist, and you thought, oh, they're going to go there, and then he's going to protect them, and they're all going to work together, and then he's going to continue with them. Being that we didn't watch the game, we didn't know.
Play the game.
Yeah, play the game. We didn't know what was going to happen. So it was a surprise that it was also wait, what did you say? 78 minutes? 52 minutes of this is all their storyline?
Yeah.
You kept thinking Joel and Ellie were going to show up sometime, and they never did.
All right.
But as long as you take that out of the picture that your expectations were not met, I thought it was a really touching and well done episode. I mean, it was.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well,
number one,
it definitely deviated.
I don't think if this was a major backstory to somebody like Joel or Ellie that we're going to see later on, or if there's a major backstory that means something to the story, I would have been okay with it. But I'm so they're both dead, and their storyline is done in this show, and
right.
And
they literally could have had Joel and Ellie show up at that last scene and then just continue on to the next thing. They could have just skipped all of that. But this might be the first time, the first time we're seeing it, that they're really going to deviate from the show, that they're going to explore every backstory that Joel and Ellie go to. You know what I mean? There might be another group. They're going to show their history. So they figured, well, let's start with this one. But go ahead, sorry.
Or they just were you know what? Let's create a sub-story that we can film in parallel with what's going on in Boston's first couple of episodes. So then, you've got one director over here at this shooting Bill and Frank's story. Because, Walking Dead does this all the time. You know what I mean? Walking Dead will have multiple storylines going on. What's going on in Alexandria? What's going on with the Whispers? What's going on with Negan? What's going on? So every week you could have a totally self-contained story where they shot these stories in parallel, right?
True.
And I think that's probably what happened here. Because then it shortens or it makes it easier on the budget.
I mean, they definitely wanted to go out of their way to really show the loving relationship between these two guys. I mean, they really went out of their way to do that. If they repeat this and do it again with other couples or other things, it's okay.
I don't think they're going to do it again like this, but they might show a backstory. Yeah. But it's not going to be a love story like this was. So, but I didn't really like it. See. I mean, there was a lot of interesting things to watch, and what was interesting is in 20 years, they had very little resistance in that small town. I assume they had to take care of, the undead coming in every once in a while.
They showed one guy, and he just got his head blown off.
And I assume there was more than one episode of invaders coming in, but, they didn't make it... It made it look like they had kind of carte blanche of that town.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna make Frank happy, you better paint that house and get the lawnmower going.
Get the boutique going.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time in that strawberry scene.
Yeah.
But this is illustrating the vast difference between Walking Dead and this, and that mushroom plague cannot spread that quickly because you have to be basically there. Whereas with a virus plague, it spread to everybody, or we assume. We don't know what the
But the thing is this: what spreads this fungus is what you hear from Joel as he's walking. He's explaining to Ellie, is it got into the food supply.
Oh yeah.
No one knows for sure, but best guess, cordyceps mutated. Some of it got into the food supply. Probably a basic ingredient like flour or sugar. There were certain brands of food that were sold everywhere, all across the country, across the world. Bread, cereal, pancake mix. You eat enough of it, it'll get you infected.
Right.
So, if people now know that, they just go and they avoid the flour, they avoid the cornmeal,
right.
They avoid anything like that would, like if you're pillaging shelves.
And make your own.
Yeah, you make your own. Now, canned goods like Spam and, Chef Boyardee, those will be okay because that's not something where the fungus is going to grow in it.
Right.
But, anything that that the fungus will
right.
be in. Remember he said pancake mix?
Right.
Baking goods, so.
And to that point, this was the first time that they officially declared that...
Oh, I declare!
They declared officially that a dead person cannot come back to life.
Yeah.
But they have not declared, to your point, what happens if you had those products and you cook the crap out of them?
Right.
Will the fungus come? I mean, can you kill the fungus by cooking it?
I don't know.
And again, this goes back to your point.
What's the point?
Tough actin' tenactin.
Tough actin' tenactin.
A little spray every once in a while. Yeah. Are you good for
little Monostat 7?
Little. Is that fungus based?
Yeah, yeast infection, right?
Yes, that's right.
So
you're right. I mean, you just coat yourself a little.
There was plenty of topical things on the shelf to kill this fungus, right?
Man.
I don't know. All right, well, Cult Lords fans and viewers, what we'd like you to do is go down and hit the subscribe button. We'll be doing an episode review every week.
Smash land on that subscription button.
Yep. Then hit the like button, and then go down and put in the comments what you thought of this episode. If you were a gamer of this, I really want to know what you thought of this episode because this was mass deviation from the game. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's not a good thing. Was this not your bill, like I saw on some YouTube channels? Or, did you enjoy the fresh story? Did you enjoy the Linda Ronstadt sing-alongs?
And we now know Joel likes Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
He's like, this is good. You know Linda Ronstadt?
I didn't even know that Linda Ronstadt song, but apparently everybody else did. So, but yeah, let us know what you thought. And Dane.
Yes.
How do you want to tackle this fungus problem?
Oh, with some tough actin' tenactin! Shh! Peace out!
What are you waiting for?